The recording started whenever you want to start.
Okay, it's 6:30 and I'm going to call the Richmond Township Planning Commission to order. At this time, I'll ask for approval of the minutes from January 27th. Been a long time since we've seen each other.
I'll make a note to approve those minutes as they're written.
Sam moves. That was seconded. Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Anybody in the audience want to make comments on things that are on the agenda this evening? I mean, some of you are going to be on the agenda, right? Okay. We'll go to old business. Walbert Funeral Home. Subdivision final plan.
Yeah, I think we have somebody's here for each plan, so if they want
Okay. Your turn?
to work their way into it, I think.
Oh, it's back there, okay.
So we just give this-
Wow. Putting the plan board up here, I'll just take a minute to maybe just recap where we're at in the project. So my name is Chuck France, I'm with CTC Design Group. We were here in front of the planning commission, if you recall, a few months back, probably closer to the beginning of the year, I want to say, or
Our only meeting was January. So.
yeah. So we were here at that time and we went over the plan. I think at that time, a lot of the conversation focused on some of the prior zoning and zoning hearing board decision that was done for this property previously, which may have affected the ability to use what we're calling Lot 1 as a commercial property rather than in the residential district. So I think we kind of went back and forth a little bit last time. I think there was some board members, some planning commission members that had some recollection of that zoning hearing board. I think staff had a chance to go back and look through some of the records too, and I think we all sort of landed on, at least the spirit of the zoning hearing board decision was to use that lot for commercial purposes, being Lot 1. It kind of tailed off after that, and really what we've been working on since then is looking at some of the other comments that were in the review letter, and primarily with respect to septic, and making sure that we can have an on-lot system located somewhere on Lot 1. So we have recently completed septic testing on Lot 1 to determine that we have areas that would be able to be used for an on-lot septic system. Lot 2, just to recap the septic situation here, then we were putting a non-building waiver in for lot number 2. That's going to remain for agricultural use. There's not going to be a building that's going to be proposed on lot 2. So I believe there's that non-building waiver is, I believe, what was submitted with this last packet. So that would be something for the township to consider as well. So really, I think we're down to just sort of a handful of comments from the review letter. I think the biggest one remaining still under zoning is just, we had some conversation last time too about how we would define or what we would consider as frontage for Lot 1, with the fact that PennDOT took some additional right-of-way for a stormwater basin along the frontage. I think we were trying to dive into a little bit of the definitions and just get our arms around how that would get applied. I think our stance from our side was it's additional right-of-way, so provided whatever we have along the right-of-way would count as frontage for the purposes of lot width. But I believe Scott and Michelle are going to kind of talk a little bit about that.
So that was, and I can just kind of follow up on that one. That was really kicked to an interpretation for the zoning officer so late in coming, and that it didn't make it to the letter, but I can say that basically from the definition, there was almost somewhat of a gray area there, but looking at that again with the previous submission that was made for the zoning hearing board, this was not necessarily a stormwater intended easement in front of the property. It was taken as just right of way, so that right of way line is the front of that property still. It's a little abnormal for what frontage typically would be, but the zoning officer, and I will forward you his official interpretation of that, but he had said that this, by definition, does still qualify as frontage for that property. Now, it will be using that shared driveway per this layout. That driveway has a easement on it in favor of the lot that will carry with it, so it does still have access. So as far as the zoning with that interpretation, I don't think there was any outstanding zoning comments that were
No, that's all we were waiting for.
to be determined on this, so.
Chuck, could I just
Sure.
address?
Yeah.
So I want to try and take some of the gray area or concern or wonderment out. So I do have an agreement with Jim Adams. I'm not sure if anybody knows Jim Adams. He's a financial planner in Landon. He and his, what was going to be a successor, had separated. He's in a temporary location. He's looking to put a new office here for himself for financial planning. He's got his whole land development plan to go, working on septic design, HOP, all that stuff from his end of things. Like our driveway is 25 to 750 cars a day. I think we had 8. His might make it 13. Our biggest funeral ever, I think I had 120 cars, and that was one day in the last 12 years. So as far as that, the driveway stuff there. I also have an agreement with Brad Beal. He'll be taking the farmland to keep as a farm. So that'll be the remaining farmland, never to be used for anything, but in our agreement, we'll basically, if it's decided that he's not going to farm it, he'll revert back to me so that does not get developed. Because I don't want anything behind the funeral. So.
How
that's-
big is it? What you're calling lot 2?
Lot 2 is about 6.9 acres, so just the,
So it's not big enough for any type of conservation or anything like that?
No, it's under the threshold of the conservation stuff. But was part of it, and Brad's been farming it for the 15 years he's been there. But it's one of those things where I don't want it ever developed. And Jim's one of my best friends, and this is just something that was, the only reason we've done this is because of our relationship and him wanting to kind of come home. And that's why I'm not worried about who's coming there, what they're gonna use it for. It's not gonna be some McDonald's or some crazy thing that's going in. And I know the way and the level he does things too, it's gonna be congruent with our design and develop as far as the beauty of what we have there. That he'll do, we'll probably have to one up on that, but it'll definitely be something that is next to no impact. And we, as far as any of the stuff we need to do, he and I are fully working with whatever needs done. But a lot of the stuff that, as I was going through each of the comments, and I said to Chuck, I said, well, he's already on board with doing these various things, and because his design, like where's the well gonna go, it's gonna be based on where they're building and what they're doing with that kind of thing,
So, and I think some of the comments he's speaking of, they did provide us with copies from the submission to MAU, the septic testing, coordination with the SEO, so there has been that ongoing coordination. I mean, the testing, from what I saw, looked like it was, yeah, I have good results, we'll say, but it didn't necessarily show an offset for the well, but I don't think it, in this plan, necessarily has to, as long as you can show that it can land on the property somewhere with a relatively, with that offset in mind. And it does, it just didn't necessarily demonstrate that per the plan. But the other comment I had on there was having to do with the locate, or basically the driveway itself. And I had not been part of the original layout for the Walbert, so the property itself and the discussions with PennDOT. I did kind of voice a little bit of hesitation with a final approval based on adding a commercial property, not knowing what that commercial property was, and PennDOT's incredibly protective attitude towards these traffic circles. I mean, we've had conversations with different developers around this traffic circle and as well over in Maxatawny, and just I've kind of seen it from the side that they push driveways beyond the limits of an existing property, saying you can't put a driveway there based on what your use is. knowing that it's a small, like you said, small generating development, I don't see that any small number would kick that over, but I would still, I mean, I'd still recommend that they have a conversation with PennDOT. Not saying they get an approval from PennDOT, but just a general discussion of what the driveway is going to entail, because they're still in the taper for that traffic circle at the very end. So again, I don't think there's going to be a negative impact for what's getting proposed here, but it's just, we've seen PennDOT chew up some of these projects.
You're talking about the merge point?
I've seen
driveway.
at least 3 different projects where PennDOT has,
I know, but you
Sure.
mentioned the merge point, I think, in your discussion, as far as where the driveway is, the merge point from the.
oh, the merge point, yes, yeah.
So the fun of having developed this right before PennDOT doing their project to start with is I don't even want to think about the cost of it, but paying the engineer, attorneys, and everybody else to go sit at the office in Allentown for 8.5 hours while they argue back and forth. Basically, I've had the same meetings now with PennDOT. They took 29 square feet of room over here for the new project, and basically we were just in the straightaway. No longer merge, it'll be the 4 lane that starts at the end of 26. And they also stated they're putting medians the whole way, so it'll just be straight shot.
Has this been brought up to them yet and discussed with them on it at all, or?
I talked to them, when I was talking to them about their project and stuff, because I got I was looking at their plans and everything else as they discussed what they were taking with me. When they did a field change, because originally on this plan, you can see they had the grass all the way up here. And so created more of a choke point. So they did that thing for a long taper front, which is one change I had them do when they did the construction originally, because they created a choke point where they forced the merge by curb. It's just that you realize this is just going to be a launch point for people. So basically they took this 29 square feet up here because of they're not taking much now because they did this field change originally. So this just gets straightened out. So they're only taking a small area here. I think it's for an inlet. Come back into the pond. I think that's what they're doing for. But they're not actually encroaching anything because of they're actually going away because it's going down the 4 lanes from the So
You're not adding a driveway, this is the existing driveway?
Yeah,
And the commercial space will come back from land development?
Oh, okay.
So if we can just put a note that no occupants of this plan until PennDOT and do the same for that.
If you would do that with, yes, and then also DEP planning module for lot 1, 2, then you have to go through that process as well.
Since this is coming back, I think this is in this way. If you're okay with
That works
that.
for, yeah, I mean, if that's typically this, I would defer to you on that one. So I'm like, if you're all right with that.
And that's why as we saw some of the things, I said to Chuck, I was like, okay, so I know that, because I'm in constant conversation with Jim, he's like, I got engineers on that, And so I'm trying to make sure that we do what we need to do, but also not duplication, because to come up with a design for something that is contrary to what's going to be submitted as soon as this goes through, to me, it's better to kind of keep one congruent flow of what we're doing.
Yeah, my concern was really on the, and I think most of the comments are pretty minor what remain. The only one I would say is that the comment about the driveway, just knowing that it was a commercial lot and it hadn't really, the plan didn't state what that was going to be and how PennDOT's reaction was, or what your traffic generation is at the existing plus what's coming onto it.
And I know he has his plans done, that if you want, with a final submission to the supervisor, whatever, if you want a copy at least of the preliminary plans of what his build would be, so that we satisfy that part, I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem with it.
I think that might muddy the waters.
I would be more, I don't know if there's, I know PennDOT's not a very responsive bunch, but I think just asking if they could just generally take a look at what the lots are and does the threshold cause any concerns with the driveway? I truly don't think with a financial planning office I think if you have anything that's gonna be under 50 trips, there's not even bat an eye. I think they would just give you a quick answer if it's
I do have the gentleman who was in charge of the whole construction plan for this, and he's still in charge of the whole corridor changes. I have his email, so I'll reach out to him directly, see if I can get just some verbiage back from him.
Yeah, and I can even send them an email just to see if we can get a response before the board meeting, so just be.
Yeah, but just as far as seeing the plan, yeah, if you get an answer, I think that'd be great, but I'm just saying the plan would be, and I presume, because you talked about such good friends, if you get a 120 person funeral, you're gonna say to them, hey, I've got a 120 person funeral. Can you not schedule appointments today?
And Jim's,
And I mean, I wasn't part of the original one, but I did see the correspondence previously where it seemed like there was a lot of consideration for this driveway.
Oh, there was,
The PennDOT, everything.
Because that's a no, it's always been a no left turn, correct? It's a no, you have to go up and turn
But
around.
according to PennDOT, they said I'm not allowed to do that. According to PennDOT, I had to allow it to be left turn. That was where PennDOT and the township were arguing.
Wow, okay, I didn't recall
Township,
that.
I said to the township, I'll put up no left turn. PennDOT said, you better not put that sign up. I was like,
Okay.
so I put it up so we could get approval for the township, and then PennDOT said, take it down. When they're out there working, they said, you can't do that. You put a restriction there that's not according to our blah, 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 then we have to look at all these other, and somebody's gonna see that. So, it's gonna be a new point with, they're putting in with the median in, so,
We'll be able to make that.
unless you want to become a client right there.
Oh,
Sorry. I have dibs for 600 feet in front of the building.
I don't know if there was really, the only other one, and it's typical for a subdivision annexation or anything, Michelle, it's basically kind of number 5 on page 3 with,
oh,
this is creating the new lot lines. So in that situation, there are the need for the monuments because it's really no other improvements being completed on this. Typically, we either ask them to be completed and certified before the project, or if you think it's necessary to post a security to make sure that they're completed at a future time. I just know that's one of those that's gotten missed over time, and that's typically a comment we have.
I was gonna say either or, do you plan to put, can you arrange to put it before we release the plan for
We
recording?
can put them in before Russ, if you're okay with that.
I'll get it.
We can basically get them on, certainly
Then it'll be a
certified, get a letter of certification, that they were placed.
And then you'll just pay for Scott to come out, or whoever comes out and confirms that they're there.
If they send it, whoever sets them, if they want to send a letter sealed, we usually do that, match the plans and everything.
So that could be a condition of a recommendation for final approval, and then just not sign or release the plans until we've got confirmation.
We'll put that in motion.
I don't think, was there anything else?
Is there any particular place you want the monuments, or does the ordinance dictate where you want the
I
monuments?
think the ordinance does,
I know you
I
want
think-
them along the new lot line, but is there anywhere else that,
I think it's just where the new lot lines might hit the right of way, really. I think that's the monuments, and I think the lot pins are acceptable for the other.
Okay.
It is per the ordinance, so we'll double check that with them before they set it if they want.
Any questions from the board? Understand it all? Motion will include the monuments that we were talking about here, that you put in the new area.
and do you want to compliance with your letter and a note regarding PennDOT approval? Or PennDOT, no construction until PennDOT. But you'll have to come back for subdivision anyway, but, I mean, land development anyway, so.
Did you want that before the approval, you're saying, or?
As
That makes
a note on the plan, is all I'm
Gotcha.
saying.
Yeah, that works.
We don't want to hold a breath from PennDOT.
Or whatever the municipal planning code says about a PennDOT permit or something, or something there talks about that. I don't know that one
Yeah,
first.
we can craft a note or, you know,
Yeah,
what makes you comfortable as far as
yeah, I think that's
the need for PennDOT.
exactly, yeah, I don't necessarily think they need for the subdivision, I don't think they need
The formal note.
yeah, well, we're just looking for correspondence there, to make sure there's not a curveball, basically a big no.
Yeah, and you're probably, there's gonna be a note anyways, there's no further development without land development approval, so.
Yeah, I think we have both of them.
It'd be two monuments.
Yeah,
I think there's at least two.
I guess really, these are already sort of in place in here, I think. Scott, we can go back and look and see if these are in, but just because of the right of way that was there before.
Yeah.
These kind of, we're already in, we're just following the jobs that are already there. So it really doesn't start until we start getting around corners here. So it's really, I think,
Possibly
we
four.
1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5.
5 monuments, okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve final approval
Yeah,
with
recommendation
the
for
monuments being,
condition on the monuments, the
am I missing something?
July 28th letter, and a note regarding the PennDOT.
We're holding our breath.
I think it's more, well, we should
You have more requests in there than you do. So
say.
Yeah.
that.
there's a waiver in there just for, I think, using the shared drive.
So there is the, second,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that's
I apologize, I didn't highlight it. There is one waiver, it's on page 3. They are using the shared driveway, so that would be section 804.201, which requires the driveway, this is the shared driveway, so. Have direct driveway access to an existing or proposed public-private street,
Okay, the other hand, we were separate then, right?
so that's.
Yes. And as part of the land development, you'll present an easement for,
Yes, yep, there'll be an easement that we can put meets and bounds to.
also a separate recorded easement.
Do you have an easement agreement with?
I'll do whatever I need to do.
Okay, yeah.
It's noted on the plan to have that easement on there.
I'm belt and suspenders. For this one, I'm
That's-
fine with that. For
that's
this one, I'm fine with it, but when the land development comes back, I'd like to see a recorded easement.
Okay, we're gonna handle the proposed waiver first on number 4, 804.2.01. You wanna handle that waiver? I'll take a motion to handle it.
This would be for the driveway,
For the shared driveway.
Yeah.
for the shared driveway.
Yeah,
I can make a motion to approve those that for the shared driveway according to the 804.2.01. That's required.
okay, Sam moves.
I can second that.
It's been seconded. All in favor, say aye. Any discussion first? Hearing none. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Sorry, I just got one off of the bold note there. That was, I skipped right over there.
Okay, we'll go for approval of the final plan. That would be plus the markers we put in, right?
Yeah, Jim, did you catch that with the condition on the letter,
Yes.
the monuments?
Yeah, the monuments would be somewhere around 6 or 7, I think you got it right.
Somewhere around.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. I'll move that we have given final approval for the final plan with the addition of the monuments that have to be put in. Do I have a second?
I'll do a second on that.
Okay, Sam seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Do you need a, do they have to do anything with the building waiver?
I think the planning commission here, I think would have to.
I don't remember. I thought that was, the building waiver for lot 2.
Yeah. I think there's a section for the planning commission that would have to be completed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that already. I thought that just had to be,
So we have submit SES line, so planning commission.
my
I don't think
apologies.
so.
I thought that
I've
was,
seen them, yeah, I don't need this, I don't,
Oh, I have that.
no.
put it in your hands. That was, I
Okay.
thought that was, part of the SEO approval. I didn't even, I skipped over the other approvals on the back there, I apologize.
So because they're not constructing anything on lot 2, DEP requires a non-building waiver. And the planning agency is supposed to do as the planning agency would sign it. So it'd be
Okay,
a
then we need
motion
another motion
authorizing,
for that waiver. Okay,
it'd be a motion authorizing the chairman to sign the non-building waiver.
okay, non-building waiver for the, which we call PennDOT.
DEP.
Okay, whatever. Michelle has it, right? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for that.
Second that.
Okay, Ben moves, Sam seconds. Any discussion or question? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Do you want to take this with you tonight or come by and?
We can
Jen
check it
has to
out.
sign it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Yep, that's fine.
Sorry.
All right, thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, we go down the agenda to new business. It says Crystal Cave Road subdivision. Everybody should have a folder on that.
Yeah, I got a couple minutes.
You see in the middle.
That one back.
All right, guys, Rob Hain, Burke Surveying and Engineering. We working with Mr. Stutzman and his son for the proposed subdivision of their farm over on Crystal Cave Road. Right now, it's approximately 109-acre farm, and they want to divide it approximately in half. The existing house, second page here.
I basically did a little crayon drawing here.
There we go.
Did you call it crayon drawing?
I call it a crayon drawing. I did it on the computer, but it looks like there's a couple markers.
You are remarkably talented with crayons.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Crystal Cave Road bisects the property. As you can tell in the overall view, it kind of does like a horseshoe where the bend is, where Crystal Ridge Road comes off. Saucony Creek actually also bisects the property, comes underneath Crystal Cave Road, and then winds around almost parallel to it. The existing house and farmstead is on the north side of Crystal Cave Road, sort of centrally located in the property. And the idea here is that the new lot line is going to come down Crystal Cave Road from the western boundary to where it intersects with Saucony Creek, which is the municipal boundary between Richmond Township and Greenwich Township. And then we're going to extend north, pretty much following the creek up to where we intersect the northern end of the property. Both lots would then be about equal sized, about 55 and 54 acres, with the residue tract primarily in Greenwich Township, or actually mostly are all in Greenwich Township, and the new lot being located, including all the Richmond Township portion of the property and about 13 acres, I think, of Greenwich Township on the south side of Crystal Cave Road here opposite the existing house. Part of the property, as I said, is bisected by the Saucony Creek, so we have some floodplain that follows that and comes across the property. Part of the work we've done before we came to you guys was to make sure that there was a suitable site for the new single-family home that's going to be built on the new lot, and that's going to be here on the south side of the road. There's an existing high point adjacent to the creek in the existing farm field there. So it's a Zone A floodplain, so FEMA does not have established flood elevations across this property. So we did a minute section study just for this section to show this area could be above what they would determine to be an estimation of what the base flood elevation could be for a 100-year storm. So they reviewed, accepted that, and this area you see with the honeycomb hatch has been formally removed from the flood hazard area by FEMA, and copies of that will be submitted with our preliminary plan for the township records. But essentially, we have an area where the house and well and septic can be constructed that not only from historical knowledge by the property owner, it doesn't flood, but also according to FEMA, doing all their estimations and calculations, this area is also not going to be prone to flooding as well.
I'll ask the insurance company.
Well, the insurance company, once you have a letter that's on FEMA letterhead that's signed by somebody, they say you don't have to have flood insurance. So that's essentially what it is. Otherwise, you're
Better
going
frame the letter, I'm sorry.
to. Well, we keep digital copies of everything now, so that way, it's hard to lose it. But right, so we went to Greenwich Township. We were at their planning commission meeting last Monday night. They reviewed this, and since the majority of the new lot, including the new house site and development, is all in Richmond Township, they agreed to the concept of deferring review to Richmond Township. Now, we still have to go to the supervisors, but I feel pretty confident based on the discussion with the Greenwich Township consultants and their planning board that more than likely they will defer to you guys because, again, you guys have to review for the sewage planning for the new house, the stormwater, the driveway, everything else. All the development's going to be in Richmond Township. So what we have here is a sketch plan. We have comments from your engineer, but before we dig into the letter, I just figured I'd introduce the project and see if anybody has any questions or comments or concerns.
Okay, this corner belongs with this.
Yeah, so the line's going to kind of follow.
Oh, you put that line, okay.
So the green is really gonna be the residue track, that's what's left over, with the exception of I kind of skipped around the label. It's a little cleaner line as you follow the creek up through there, but
Should have
that's
been
gonna
right
be-
through it.
yeah, I could. That's gonna be the existing home, the
Okay.
residue lot. Everything else outside of that with the red is, so that little corner there is included.
The other night, there were 7 deer standing there, so.
So you know the area.
No, kidding. Any questions?
The new building would be where projected?
So it's kind of like right in
Right,
that,
yeah.
I mean, right,
Yeah.
if you want.
It's right here.
Yes.
So like here's Crystal Cave Road,
Okay.
and here's the creek as it winds through. So there's a knob here. It's like a hump, basically in the natural ground topography.
We can get to it without having to cross the creek or?
So right now, there's already an existing lane that goes through there with the pipe. So like that pipe that you called out in one of your comments is actually already there. So right now, this is how they currently access that field. Honestly, they drive pretty much where the new driveway is going. They have different cattle chute fences and stuff up for pasture over there, and they drive their tractor right where the driveway is going to go. So, I mean, there really isn't much in the way of concerns as far as functionality and development of said driveway beyond that. Obviously, we're going to have to comply with township ordinances and PennDOT to get a permit, but physically, the driveway's there, the pipe underneath it is there.
That's not the Saucony Creek, that's something.
Nope, that's the Saucony Creek.
It is.
So, yeah,
Oh,
the big
the-
line, what's the little one?
The little
goes
one,
under
that
the
is
driveway?
a intermittent swale. So, I mean, it could be intermittent stream, ephemeral swale. There's not consistent flow in there 100% of the time. So it's not what I would consider to be a regulated water course or waterway. It's,
A year like this year, there's some water
there's more water this year than there
there.
was
Yeah,
last
right,
year
but
for
Other
sure.
years,
no
it's
doubt.
probably not, okay.
Right.
It's a spring fed, and it's.
Yeah.
About another maybe quarter of a mile up or east, I guess, or maybe
So-
half a mile east, there's some springs, and I guess that's the source of the water that goes down through there.
The water kind of comes down along this side of Crystal Cave Road here. There's another farm lane that comes in at the bend, and then it kind of turns and goes under a pipe underneath that farm lane, and then follows through here. There's other wetland areas that we had mapped here to make sure that we weren't going to be encroaching in any environmentally sensitive areas. So those wetlands and this swale here is going to drain in that existing pipe underneath what is the farm lane now and will be the proposed driveway to the new house.
Questions?
What permits do you expect you're gonna need for this?
ENS plan approval, stormwater approval, drainage plan. I mean, there shouldn't be any 105 permits because we're not encroaching in any wetlands or putting in any new stream crossings in. So since the pipe's already there, I mean, if you're not encroaching into wetlands with your new development, there's no permit required.
because now you're calling it a driveway versus just driving over it, so that's what my concern was.
Yeah, and that, obviously, I mean, my initial concern was that other lane that you're showing
This one.
just above it has a 24-inch pipe for clearance, where the existing, it's choked down to a 15-inch pipe after that, I think is what.
Well, I
it's shown
think
on there, right?
if, yeah, most agricultural pipes that get put in is based on what pipe is around as opposed to engineering and sizing the pipe to fit what's necessary there. I can't speak for that. I mean, there is like even a concrete end, like sort of like a wing wall, like an end, an L-shaped end wall there for feeding in. So at this point, I don't see any evidence of it, surcharging that and eroding across the top of what's now a dirt access lane. So again, besides just what's required for permitting, I don't see any visible concerns for that. If anything, by stabilizing that surface with macadam and or gravel, it would be less likely to have damage and erosion going downstream than what it is now as a farm lane that they just take tractors and trucks in occasionally when they need to.
So 9 chances out of 10, those pipes were put in by a township.
Oh, I would not assume
No,
that.
probably just
I would assume they're put in by a farmer.
That just happened.
Okay.
I would assume that at one point the
Exactly.
farmer was driving through the ditch to get to the field, and he got tired of driving through the ditch and just dropped a pipe in and put stone and dirt across it. But
Yeah,
and that was probably done.
I don't think
100
we
years
have,
ago.
I don't think the driveway portion of the ordinances is gonna be any kind of a driving factor of should that be larger or not. Yeah, I think the other part of this is, and we'll get to it too, both the stormwater and the driveway are, I didn't realize it was an existing driveway, but there is work to be done in the floodplain.
Right.
So in that case, again, we'll talk about the storm sewer in a minute, but in that situation, if there's gonna be the work done there, does it make sense to upgrade that pipe? I don't know if there's a specific section there that would require it to, other than you're taking a farm field crossing pipe now and making it a driveway to a house. So as you were saying, Michelle, you're kind of creating a situation here where you're gonna be using that more often. It's a residential purpose. If you have a 24-inch pipe above it, it seems to make sense to try to match that, if nothing else. But again, as he was saying, or you didn't really say it exactly, Rob, but we are in floodplain there regardless too. So part of the issue with the stormwater and the floodplain is how do you design the stormwater to handle the storms that may inundate the whole area anyway. And then the concern there is ultimately that can't have a negative effect on the area that's out of that flood, that's been mapped as being out of the flood area, the floodplain. So
Right. Historically, again, this is a Zone A floodplain, so it's not. If it was a FEMA regulated Zone AE floodplain, there would be established base flood elevations, and therefore a means with a target for quantifying what your changes to said floodplain would be by any additions that you're adding. Usually those concerns come into play mostly when you're choking something like the Saucony Creek, like if you were crossing over here, and this would have a dramatic impact on slowing the water or impacting how the water flows through this culvert, that it would back up onto somebody else's property. Or if, again, even if it was adjacent here, if the stream was the property line, and yet if you fill on this side of the floodplain, the water is going to get higher on the opposite side of the creek and therefore have a negative impact on the neighbor there. Generally, when you own the property on both sides of the creek, the improvements or whatever you add on one side generally has a very negligible impact to anybody that's not in the immediate vicinity.
I think the twist on this one is you have public roadways right there too. That's just kind of the two are the area that has been removed from the flood area.
Mhm.
I think that, and then you have the public roadway there, and you're doing the work inside the floodplain directly adjacent to both of them.
I mean, for the driveway, for the most part, I figured, I mean, essentially, I'd be looking at this like, you'd strip off the topsoil, you put down your stone, and you put your pavement in. It's not a dramatic impact. At the most, you're probably looking at a couple inches of fill, and in some places, none whatsoever. You strip out enough topsoil, you just put in the stone and backfill. What you really ideally want is for your natural drainage pattern of all this area that drains down and comes across here, because this is high already. The road's high, and this is a low area in between. So ideally, we want that water to continue flowing in the manner that it is to get down to the creek without putting in a fill driveway that would then create something that's going to stop or reshape the way the water is flowing. The only thing that we'd be looking to put in here to actually change the way water is flowing would be a stormwater management facility, because again, this being a low area here, this is the natural area that you put in something to collect or capture runoff from your new improvements.
Yeah, I think to me, that's the challenge, is the stormwater. It's in an area where you ideally would not want stormwater, and frankly, I don't know how you get it to function.
Well, I mean,
is the concern, and
it's, if you're not having beyond 100-year flood, it should function. So again, 99% of the time, it's not going to be inundated, because this field, this area that's mapped as the floodplain here, is not, during your 2-year storm, that's 3 inches of rainfall, your water doesn't come out of the creek bank.
but again,
Your
yeah,
10-year
I
storm,
think
your 50-year storm, it's not coming out here.
it's the balance of, will it work? Yes, but then you're filling in the floodplain too. And that's the concern of, where's that water pushing, or what are you doing? And it's either directly related to that resident property or the roadway. And I agree with you, there's not with a residential property, you don't want to try to put too many additional hindrances on anything here, but there is no calculation, as you said, for that base flood elevation. Just exactly what are the impacts, I think, is a concern. I just don't, I think it's not quantified by this plan, but I think that's kind of the concern.
What we can do, and what I have done in the past, is I can provide what I would calculate to be, if we were going to try and design and computate what the flood elevation would be for the stream and its overbanks here, I can create a cross section across where we're going to put the fill berm for the stormwater basin. I can route a max flow through that irregular shaped channel.
How much did you have to do for the revision already, the Loma there?
For this,
Yeah.
so we took ground measurements on this entire area here, and we took a cross section of the stream. Well, we took several cross sections of the stream here to make sure that we had all this information, and then we ship that to FEMA, and basically they do their calculations to say that this is, they'll have whatever regional mapping that they have that says this is how much area drains to this location, and then they'll route that through those irregular channels that we get, information we gave them, for them to calculate and say, yes, we agree that where you're showing this.
So you have that now already, or are you waiting?
That was
We
where I
have
was
that.
going with the two, is
We did that first thing to make sure that
Okay.
this was possible before we moved forward with you guys. Because if FEMA wasn't going to approve a place to build a home,
yeah,
then-
then it's kind of,
then there's also, it doesn't make sense to jump through all the hoops of the expense for flood insurance, and then, the likelihood that you guys are going to be on board with the new house in the flood zone. Again, your flood ordinance doesn't say you can't build in the floodplain. It says you can, but you have to quantify to ensure that you're not
criteria.
increasing the base flood elevation by more than a foot in any location. So as I said, we could do, like I said, I could do a cross section that goes through here, and a pre-development that shows without a fill berm, and a post-development that shows the fill berm in. And I can say that, the same amount of flow that goes through is not going to be raised by a foot.
Yeah, and please understand, I'm not trying to add to this and have complications where it's just not possible, but I think by doing that, I think that really does demonstrate the bigger questions that we have with the floodplain ordinance, and will it still meet with having to do that stormwater? Because the stormwater in the floodplain is kind of a tough design to to come up with there and make sure that it's done right. I think that's one of the bigger comments in the whole thing. I mean, I don't know if you had that same take from it, but on my end, that was my concern.
Well, from your review comments, I mean, it seems, and it genuinely is a legitimate concern that these are floodplain areas. As I said, knowing that the house and the well, and we have enough area that we can do this outside of it. All the important structures and features will be in an area that's outside of regulated floodplain, which therefore should alleviate any and all concerns about anything that happens within here. And then we're only talking about a driveway where essentially, we could cut down a few inches and fill a few inches. And if that's what the township feels most comfortable with, we can specify that on the plan that says that the design there will be no change in finished grade for the driveway. That we can just say it's all gonna go, it's gonna pass right through.
And part of the discussion tonight was to see what they were doing with the driveway. Was it gonna be elevated so that if there was some kind of a storm and you put in a pipe where the water can pass through, and you determine what that pipe needs to be for those storms? That was one possibility coming into it. I assume, like you're saying, Rob, it was just gonna be flat. Basically try to keep it as low as you can, not change from what's out there now so that it would operate the same, stormwater aside. I don't know if the township really has that preference of what is shown there, how to do it.
Okay.
I think whatever works best there. I mean, also having a level, if it floods, then you kind of have a house with an island on it there because the driveway is really inaccessible. So I didn't know if it was going to be elevated or not to that point, but.
Is there any concerns with the crossing, the driveway crossing the water course?
So
Is that
there's
required?
not really a water course there. There's a,
Okay, so I
internet
misunderstood
swale.
it. It's crossing the creek or it's not crossing?
It's not a defined waterway.
That's what I was asking, okay, because the discussion kind of went between both, so I wasn't sure where that was.
yeah, in my opinion, it's not a regulated waterway.
It's not the Secani Creek.
It's not the Sockety Creek for sure.
Saucony.
Absolutely not. That's okay.
I mean, they have to go through their ENS approval. So
Right.
if there's a big different determination by the conservation district, they're gonna have to look at the plan anyway.
So we need to ENS plan, we don't,
They do need to get it.
we're doing it, okay.
Yeah, they have to get it.
Right, that'll be required because, they're gonna be stripping topsoil for a residential project. So we'll have to get
Okay,
it.
tell me what we want, we want a sketch plan.
So it's, right now they're submitting the sketch plan. I guess as far as just discussion, the one item that we could just kind of give an opinion on is the ordinance allows for a sketch plan to proceed to a final plan instead of going
Sketch plan.
preliminary, final. That's allowed in the ordinance if the planning commission would recommend that, if you want to.
So shall we go for a sketch plus final or a sketch plan preliminary final?
I'm okay if we want to have that general discussion, but I think
Hold
based on
off
the
on that.
floodplain and all the conversations we've had, when you come in, if you think you've answered everything, plan to go
Right.
sketch plan to final. But I don't know that we're.
Generally, I
ready.
think that's how we handled previous plans anyway.
Yeah.
It just kind of gave the planning commission would just generally speak if they seemed comfortable with it, given what the scope of the plan is. But yeah. Don't
Okay,
necessarily
board.
have to-
You heard the recommendation, sketch plan final.
Not
Right.
necessarily a motion, just how's everybody's feeling.
We don't need a motion?
No,
Okay.
this is a sketch plan, so you don't actually have to take any formal action.
Yeah,
on
all right,
anything here
okay.
tonight.
But are you okay generally, sketch plan to final if they address the concerns with floodplain and?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically subdivision with single residential.
It's a one lot subdivision that's 54 acres with one new house.
Yeah, but for the floodplain issues, I think we'd probably be done tonight.
Yeah.
It's, again, it's very simple. And again, I think what that takes is just me working with your engineer to come up with a design
Okay,
that he's comfortable with and that suits and meets the needs of the ordinance.
that makes it easier.
I'm assuming there's already been a bit of time into getting where you are with the FEMA.
Yeah, and we looked at, we had the wetlands delineated and we looked at, endangered species. So to make sure that all those issues have been cleared. So we wanted to make sure before we came into you guys that there wasn't something else that might possibly cause a hiccup down the road.
So, and if we were to go through here, and I don't think we need to go through all the comments, but there was the comment that it was difficult for me to scale it off. The property line closest to the existing farm and the barns.
I'll have to take a closer look at that. But yeah, I saw when you called it out, I saw it look close, but yeah, future plans will show those setbacks along there.
Yeah.
If it needs to be shifted over there, it may just be that, and again, honestly, the location of the municipal boundary is based off of county assessment records, which I'm not entirely sure what the legal nature of that is, but either way, it's usually a guide. So, I mean, I think the Saucony Creek is the boundary between Richmond Township and Greenwich Township. So,
Yeah, it's a
And-
little tight down there,
Yeah, they're close to the creek, the barns, and technically there's a 50-foot setback in Greenwich, and I just didn't want it to be creating a property boundary where all of a sudden there's a non-conforming issue.
And that's the boundary line by the creek is used as the boundary line.
It's the municipal boundary line, but it'll become the new property line.
But the creek never changes course, does it?
No. Right. Yeah, I think that's what Rob was getting at, that it's kind of
Just a few more curves.
I don't think anybody's ever set the pins or anything on this one.
we did a few over the years, but for the most part, none of them are in the creek because the creek moves.
Yeah.
So.
Okay,
I have no other problems.
so there's nothing to do right now, except come back to us.
Yeah, I mean, I have one or two other questions for Scott on some of his comments. So the one your comment 8 was regarding subdivision shall incorporate provisions for reliable, safe, adequate water supplies to support intended users. I assume that's just the well has to be constructed in accordance with DEP standards.
Yes,
Okay,
it's pretty generic, but it was.
just making sure there wasn't something.
Typically, no, we're not hiding anything in that.
Okay, and monuments wise, if we're looking at this for monuments, are you guys looking at, again, like maybe the boundaries of the property, where they meet the ultimate right of ways? Because this is again, 110 acre farm here with a lot of irregular turns.
I mean, the state roads typically are on the public right of way is usually
This
where
is-
I'm more concerned of setting a monument, and so I think that's probably.
Okay.
Michelle, any comments on monuments?
No, I just, so when we're all gone and somebody can come find where this boundary line is.
Okay. And then would you mind if I reach out to you again to talk about the pipes and what
Yeah.
anything you'd like to see there to satisfy your concerns as far as flows and such?
Yep.
Okay. Then that's all I have, unless you guys have any other questions, or
Doesn't look so.
Dave, you guys have anything? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate the help tonight.
Thank you, Rob.
You guys want to keep these or?
Extra agendas. Have any more paper?
Okay, going on miscellaneous business, discussion on South Hill and stormwater ordinance revisions.
Good. I did not grab those and bring them with me.
Thank you.
I apologize. We had this discussion before. I think the one thing based on these conversations that we had, I think I wanted to add into this anyway, and I'll send this to you to put it into a better format than I have. I have the example of changes in this, but one thing I've noticed is that the township ordinance requires for sketch plans to submit those to county planning.
Yes.
And I think that's somewhat different than a lot of other municipalities where it's usually preliminary or final. I think we can just scratch that language and just have them do it at the time of preliminary and final. And I checked, both procedures have it listed that they're submitting for that submission to county. So,
Unless it's a sketch plan of record, which sometimes it goes to the county.
yeah, know, yeah, I think that's the one, I don't think I checked that, but even still, I think that would make sense to have it in there. That's one
Yes,
of
it
those
should stay in there,
exceptions.
yes.
So if it's not in there, we would add it anyway, but I think that, yeah. I think we've had some pushback with the two here of, do we really need to submit it for the sketch plan? And the answer is both what the ordinances say, so yes. But I think they can do it at a preliminary or final stage, because sketch, they can come in, something comes up and it gets shot down, now they paid for that review and they're not even gonna take it forward to a formal plan, so
Okay, so
I'm gonna have to,
we'll hold off till you get something that once.
I'm gonna forward it to Michelle if they can put it into a better format than I have. Mine's basically a list, but I added to it
Okay.
recently and I just print that.
Okay, and now we have audience participation. I'll talk at once, so. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if you're ready to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Then
I'll second
move. Sam seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
You're gonna shut that off.
Motion carried.
So I'm sure she'll want to hear this too when she gets back. And I'm just curious, the plans that get submitted and repeatedly submitted, and then you get your final plan that gets recorded. All the previous submissions, what's the township's municipality's requirement for keeping